Well, we're here with another episode of Let's Talk About It. Sister Sylvia Hill, Transcending Heights, Empowering Each Other. Splash, Dripping Wet Daddy. Ralph Plaga Hill Jr. And for this particular episode, what we would like to discuss is materials and also texture. Sister Sylvia Hill, would you like to take it away and explain to the people how materials and texture coincide with one another in relation to transcending and becoming a better individual?
Hello everyone, hello. We are so thankful for everyone that has been tuning in on the Let's Talk About It, because we just love to share some of our experiences as well as gain feedback from others so that we can all transcend together. So materials. We know that materials are substances of which a thing is made or composed, and some words related to material are perceptible, serious, meaningful, equipment, and actual. So we all know that whenever we have a project or we have an assignment, that it's easier when we have the right materials. So we have some writers that watch these Let's Talk About It. So when you're a writer, you want to make sure that you have your tablet, you have a pen. Many times we may actually use our laptops and other devices to store various notes. So our materials are very essential for us to be able to successfully complete projects and assignments. Just like with photographers, they're going to make sure that they have their cameras, they have their battery full, and chargers and different things like that, so they can truly capture the moments that they need to capture. So materials are just very, very important for us, no matter what our career may be. For students, making sure you have the proper textbooks, making sure that you have everything you need. There's a certain calculator that you need, making sure you have that so you can be successful. So no matter what our goals are in life, we need materials. The Lord is one of the most essential materials. Developing that relationship with Him as He guides and directs our steps. So the Lord, our mindset, having that winner mindset, recognizing that, I can do this. Sometimes we try things and they don't really come out the way how we expected for them to come out. And so we may internalize that and just feel like, I'm a failure. But even through those experiences, we learn and we gain. So having that mindset is another essential material. Our faith being grounded in the Lord. Because many times we may become discouraged by what we see. But remember that He knows things that we don't even know. He knows about conversations that are taking place in the room that we're not even aware of. So having our faith in Him, keeping it grounded in the Lord, that not only will He bring us through whatever we are facing, but He is with us every step of the way. The Word of God, studying and applying it in our lives, truly studying it and applying it in our lives is another essential material. That courage to step out. Like I say, when we've tried things before, maybe they didn't work out. So now we have fear, we have doubt emerging, we have our own negative self-talk. We may have other people being like, oh, I don't even know why you're trying that again because you weren't successful the first time. But remember, we have to face those fears. We have to recognize that, maybe I didn't get as far as I wanted to or needed to the first time, but now I have more because as I have been connecting with others, as I've been really seeking the Lord for how He would have me to complete this project, have that courage to step out there. Sometimes it may mean walking from one job to another. Sometimes it may mean going back to school after so many years and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I have not been in school forever, but having that courage.
Yeah. When you said the word material, I think I said it first. It brought me into the mind state of people being materialistic in this world. When I look at you, I see that you're a very materialistic, spiritually materialistic person.
I'm glad you corrected that.
So, that brings me back to where I'm going. because I go here, there, and everywhere, but I come right back to here. When we're looking at the aspect of, like you said, materials, you got the essential materials, you got the accessories. Just like you're a photographer, it's essential that you have a camera. An accessory, but it's really essential is that you have a stand to prop your camera up on. Probably need one of those things that you have around your neck to hold the camera, things like that. So these are physical materials, but in a spiritually materialistical type mind state that you're in, and these things are necessary for you to have, to you already explained that the essentialness of having God with you, you know what I'm saying, and helping you to maneuver and do certain things in life. So the other spiritual materialist things are more like accessories that help with that. So I just definitely wanted to try to explain that from a different state of mind. Like when she says materials, and then you hear people always talking about materialistic and materials don't matter. Man, you got to look at things in a spiritual state of mind, and these are definitely materials that you're going to need to succeed. And brought me to mind because she just did an assignment. My fiance just did an assignment today, and like you said, you definitely need all the materials for the assignment. You need all the materials in order for a manifestation to take place. And the materials could just be people. You know what I'm saying? Having the right people in certain places that can do certain things that you may not be able to do. So we're going to take this straight back to texture, and then we're going to come back to material, and we're going to wrap it up and let them understand exactly how materials and knowing the texture and defining the textures in their life will help them.
Well, I'm glad that you broke that down even more, which is, I guess, with me saying materials and not materialistic. I wasn't even thinking that way about, being a materialistic person. But texture is an essential or characteristic quality and essence. Some words related to texture: character, sense, balance, pattern, surface, and flexibility. So throughout life, we encounter various textures. It can be with our food. Sometimes we have a preferred taste for certain textures, and sometimes we're like, what, that just does not agree with me. So it's the same with our personalities, our characters sometimes. They're a mixture. And we were talking about how sometimes people have like that wall texture. I mean, it's hard to even really become close to that person because they've been hurt so much. They've been let down so much. And so sometimes, even when you may be coming from that standpoint, and it may be us with the wall, because I've been there before, the wall. And sometimes I have blocked blessings because I had that wall up as a protective factor, because there were points in times when I needed that. But we learn with the material with the Lord, when we have the Lord as that essential material, that foundation, and we're developing that deeper connection with Him, that He is going to provide for our needs. And so He helps us to grow a tougher skin. I've talked about that before too, and a tougher skin meaning that we recognize that we will encounter various textures. And even for all of us, we have our nurturing side at times, and we have that side that we're just really firm. We're firm on this right now because I need you to understand that this is a serious matter. And then, like I say, sometimes we have more flexible textures. People that can kind of go with the flow. It seems like nothing really kind of gets them out of their element. And so having a balance and recognizing that all of these various textures are important, because we need that sometimes. Sometimes you need that firm person. Sometimes you need that nurturer, that person that when you know that, what, I have messed up, that when you go to them, they are going to be that nurturer. They're going to be like, what, I don't know what all you did. I don't understand why you did it, but this is a safe place. I'm a safe person for you to come to and just to be able to talk about with no judgment. So having that balance with all of that, and I talked about before too how in basic training, not on this platform in particular, but how in basic training, oh my gosh, I felt like we were being broken down. But it was also to help to build us up. And so sometimes, like I say, you have to encounter various textures. We learn and we grow from each other through our experiences with each other as we're transcending. Because in order to elevate, you're going to encounter people from different cultural backgrounds. And it's just important to be able to respect differences while still holding true, like all of our voices, all of our perspectives do matter, but recognizing what texture is needed for what particular situation is very important.
Yeah, that brings me into mind, like you said, with that wall and everything that people build and that rough texture and everything that comes with being let down and feeling like you've been misled at certain times, so you definitely want to protect yourself. So, I mean, I get it. And texture also puts me in the mind of, I don't know if people really of this age generation really understand, but we used to call it texturizer cream. Like when you wanted to get an S curl or when you wanted to. So spiritually, I feel like I had to texturize myself. I feel like I became rough, tough, like Afro puffs. I feel like, you know, I had a very dry type attitude, like a dry scalp. So I feel like the Lord, like in the Holy Spirit, like I've been baptized in like Jerry curl texturizer, where it's like I'm more like juicy as far as like flowing and everything. Everything is flowing a whole lot better for me. So I want to say this, that when you're dealing with different textures, with different people, and then even with going through things, whether it be work or whether it be with children or things in the community or whatever, with other people's texture, like how do you keep from having a friction type sandpaper effect to not be rough when you're dealing with, you know what I'm saying, rougher type people, to be a fire extinguisher, whether it being the wind or being the match or the gasoline. You know, I think that's very, very hard. I'm still working with that. I know you probably work with that as well, but how do you ground yourself and not match the texture, but kind of smooth out the rough edges?
Well, one thing that we talk about a lot is self-awareness. And so one of the big things that I always have to ask myself before even attempting to be there for anyone is, where am I at right now? Like, where am I at? How can I assist in coming to a solution rather than further contribute to a problem? So with that being said, sometimes I will be very silent. Very silent. Silence is powerful. Especially if you have someone that is up here, they're escalating for whatever the reason is. It's very hard if somebody is at that place, at that texture, to even reason with them, because really they're not going to hear.
What are the materials that you will use, like spiritually, like we're bringing it back together?
Well, of course, the Lord, you know, I have to, even with the Lord, consulting Him, Lord, I need you right now.
And patience,
Lord,
like
what would you have me to do? Patience was one that I had down.
Yeah.
Wisdom, because when you've been through certain experiences with people that have been elevated, and just recognizing that, you know what, the last time that someone was very upset and I tried to offer some words of encouragement, it didn't come out very well because they weren't in that place. So wisdom is very important. Patience is very important. Like I say, silence. I mean, that is definitely a material, spiritual material, because
a tool or a weapon, like material.
Because
like
there's a time for everything. So there's a time to speak. There's a time to be quiet. You know, and so sometimes we think that we have a point that we have to, even if we're right in a situation, that may not be the time to want to just say what we want to say. So yeah. Okay,
so as you said, it's definitely great. I guess I call it like a spiritual arsenal in a way, or like a toolkit of spiritual material type aspects and principles and virtues even that can allow you to just about deal with whatever type of texture that you're feeling within, and even the textures that you're dealing with externally. So, I mean, that's very, very powerful. And you are a new, brand new author. So, in your book, can you speak on certain types of materials that were attained during different things and how those materials were attained, and just some of the textures that you may have had to deal with and had to endure that has made you a tougher but smoother individual?
Okay, so everyone knows or should know by now that positive vibes only with me, but different textures. I mean, I've had some very aggressive textures that I have encountered. When I say aggressive, verbally, physically aggressive textures that I've encountered. But that wasn't just during the time of the book. I mean, that's even now. That's a part of life, that you're going to, like I say, you're going to encounter various textures. At one point, like I say, I had a very guarded, I had that wall texture. But at the time, it actually seems like it wasn't really providing very much protection for me, because my wall was kind of away from the people that really, really like loved and cared for me, because I was in a situation, or in situations rather, that kind of took me away from there. So sometimes when we face those various textures or situations, that material, that essential material, we do draw closer to the Lord, because we have more conversations with the Lord. We're like, Lord, I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of being in this situation. I don't understand why I'm going through that, which brings me back to something else dealing with texture that I thought about when I did the message for this on Facebook. Was sometimes we question why the Lord made us the texture we are. Like, I've always been considered from others, that soft texture.
Have you ever felt like maybe you were fragile?
Oh, I definitely was very, very fragile. Very fragile. But through all of the things that I've encountered, I'm more of a strengthened type of fragile now, meaning that of course I'm still fragile about certain things. I still have, there's still certain soft spots for me that, like, you mess with my children, you mess with my family, anybody that I really, really know and I'm close to, like, those are things that they do something to me. As the young people say, I do get in my feelings, but I also have to go to the Lord about, those different things as well.
Then we know that you're Miss Butterfly Transformation Team, Butterfly Nation. So basically, when you feel like that wall, when you were putting that wall up, do you feel like it's because you were in a fragile cocoon type of state? And of course, even the butterflies, we see it flying now, it's beautiful, but I can guarantee that the wings are still fragile.
Yeah.
But it's definitely able to float above and transcend above a lot of the dangers that it faced as a caterpillar.
I can definitely relate to that. I can agree to that being that experience.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely an experience where you had to battle a lot of adversity, ants, concrete, hot sun, to get to a space where you can create that cocoon for yourself and then get away and build up that wall. So do you feel like at a certain point in time in life, is it somewhat necessary to build a wall and to, like, enclose yourself, even if your family is your cocoon or your support system or your church or whatever like that? Is it best for somebody right now that may be going through some things to kind of find their cocoon or find their wall and not isolate themselves from everybody, but kind of like isolate themselves within an envelope? You know what I'm saying? Well, they can actually have time to develop during the fragile process.
I definitely would agree with that. And the reason why I say that is because I'm sure we can all attest to, sometimes we call it alone time, me time, or whatever and stuff like that. We could call it a wall, we could call it a cocoon. But sometimes we have to put ourselves in that position to where we can just reflect over some things, all the distractions, the clutter, and just different things going on, we can kind of separate from that so we can be grounded. And like I say, it goes back to that's where a lot of times we do gravitate more towards the Lord, more towards recognizing what His purpose is, because if we truly believe, then we know that yes, we're going to face challenges, we're going to face obstacles, there will be some suffering, there will be. But we recognize that this right here is not what He has for me. So a wall can be a very good thing. And I think we did a Walls Wednesday before on Facebook. Walls do serve their purposes to keep out or keep in. But then also recognizing, like I said, that sometimes the walls are no longer serving that purpose to protect us, because we're no longer in that particular position to where we just have to be right there.
Definitely.
Because at some point, the butterfly, and I, like we say, I'm the butterfly person, but at some point we have to be able to step out of that box, that cocoon or whatever, and we have to allow our wings to spread. We have to allow those visions to come to life. And so yes, and even now sometimes I have a wall, but I know how and when to put that wall up.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like a wall also, fellow author, brother and sister, dark arts of manifestation, that cocoon too is like your dark period. And when I say dark, I'm not meaning dark as far as an evil or against the light. What I mean is in your dark moments, like when it's a blank canvas with nothing on it. And I want to say this too, I think some people are afraid to have that alone time, are afraid of the voices and having to, deal with certain thoughts and emotions that they deal with when they are alone. So they like to keep people around, and they like to keep things energetic and keep things fun, so when they end up getting alone, or they're going through some type of withdrawal from people or from society, they go through an awful lot, with that. So I don't want to say as a therapist, as a Christian, like, what's your advice for those people? Because it cannot be somebody around you 24/7, and it is important to have a support system, people that you can talk to. But when it's time to just deal with yourself and to deal with those inner thoughts and to really accept reality and to deal with it, like, what's a good way for them to deal with the texture and to deal with gaining those materials that they need and letting some of the materials go that they don't need?
Well, I often joke, even with my children, that word advice, and I learned that in school with my master's, you got to be real careful about advice, because as we talked about before, different things work for different people. So what I would suggest is that, like you said, being alone can be scary. And in my book, I talk about a lot, how when you look at society and you see people, whether it's relationships or friendships, you see people together and it seems like, oh, they're just so happy and everything like that. But it truly is important and essential for us to learn our texture. And so sometimes how do we learn our true texture is being by ourselves, becoming comfortable with ourselves. Because what happens sometimes, and I don't know about anybody else, but I learned this about myself when I was in various relationships. I would become so enmeshed in a sense in the relationship that I lost a little bit of who Sylvia was, and I became like such and such's girlfriend or such and such's woman or whatever, stuff like that. And so as a couple, we would have this identity. And so I was one of those people, I have been one of those people, where I'm always like trying to look out for the best interest of somebody else, or what are you interested in? So sometimes that alone time, even when we're in relationships and everything, is so important, because that way you don't lose that sense of your actual identity and you're able to get to know yourself better, which is very essential. And so alone time, although it may seem scary, like you said, but I have really loved to appreciate some alone time. I don't get much, but I value the alone time I get, because that's that time for me to get to know myself better. That's that time for us to get to know ourselves better with the Lord. That way we don't have, even though sometimes we go to other people for support and advice, that just gives us time to meditate, to reflect over some things. Because even when it's helpful, and it may even be good advice sometimes from others, sometimes it's just really, really good to just be like, you know what, it's me. I have to be comfortable with me in order for me to really be able to be who I am with others. So I don't feel like I have to conform, or I have to do. You know, you still want to have that sense of the identity that the Lord blessed you with. So, like you say, that's really important. So what I do now is I love it. Like I say, I journal. That's part of my alone time. Sometimes I may just lie down and just think over the day. Just think over what has taken place over the day or the week or whatever and stuff like that. Sometimes just speaking positive things to myself, looking in the mirror, not in a conceited way.
Basically, yeah, definitely, like, sometimes you have to just take some time and look at your achievements. Don't be so negative about looking at everything that's gone wrong. You know, every single little milestone and every single little achievement, it matters so much.
It does.
So, in conclusion, definitely your materials help to create your texture. And the materials that you choose to have around you, the spiritual materials that you choose to gain or choose to own and to live in, they will continue to help you to grow and to become the person that you are, and to be able to know which texture you need for what type of situation.
So true.
So true.
That's so true.
Yes, indeed. Well, y'all already know we're not coming with anything but positive vibes, love, joy, increasing faith, a sense of hope, a sense of hope. Butterfly Nation, transcending together forever, and peace.